As we enter the blessed month of Ramadan, our hearts are filled with hope. But too often, that hope is met with distractions, temptations, and missed opportunities. Ramadan is not just about fasting from food and drink. It is about elevating the soul, refining our character, and drawing closer to Allah through sincere devotion. True taqwa is not something we simply inherit or wish for. It is something we actively build, moment by moment, choice by choice. Many of us desire the peace, blessings, and closeness to Allah that come with taqwa, yet we often struggle to reach it because we do not follow the steps that transform intention into action. Today, I will guide you through 6 powerful steps that can reshape your Ramadan, ignite your spiritual energy, and help you build real, lasting taqwa that goes beyond rituals and becomes a true reflection of your heart and life. The foundation of building real taqwa in Ramadan begins with a profound awareness of Allah in every moment of our lives. This awareness is not just a fleeting thought, it is a deep, constant consciousness that shapes our decisions, our actions, and ultimately, our character. Imagine walking through Ramadan, knowing that Allah is watching every gesture, every word, and every intention you hold in your heart. This is not meant to intimidate us, but to elevate us, to guide us toward a life where our connection with Allah is tangible, present, and transformative. Awareness of Allah or taqwa starts with understanding that He is ever present, not distant, not abstract, but intimately close. When we realize that our Creator sees even what we think in the silence of our hearts, it changes the way we live. Each bite we take during iftar, each word we utter to a loved one, and each choice we make in our daily routines becomes an act with spiritual significance. In Ramadan, this awareness is amplified. Our fasting itself is a practice designed to heighten this consciousness. Abstaining from food, drink, and desires reminds us that Allah's sight is always upon us, and that He is the ultimate provider, judge, and guide. But awareness of Allah is not only about vigilance, it is about intention. Every act we perform should be infused with the purpose of pleasing Him. When we pray not just to fulfill a ritual, but to stand humbly before the One who created us. When we give charity, we do not give for recognition or social praise, but to purify our hearts and help those in need. In Ramadan, this alignment of intention and action becomes crucial. The smallest acts, when performed with awareness, can carry immense spiritual weight. A kind word spoken sincerely, a smile offered to someone struggling, even patience shown during moments of anger, all of these become pathways to increasing taqwa. Furthermore, awareness of Allah transforms our internal struggles. When we feel tempted to break our fast early, to speak harshly, or to indulge in distractions, remembering Allah's presence acts as a guiding light. It creates a moment of pause, allowing us to choose actions that elevate our soul rather than satisfy fleeting desires. This mindfulness is not passive. It requires effort, reflection, and constant self-reminding. In practical terms, it means beginning your day with the intention to see every interaction as a chance to draw closer to Allah. It means making conscious choices about what you watch, what you read, and even how you speak. Each small decision compounds, gradually building a life grounded in spiritual awareness. Ramadan is the perfect opportunity to train ourselves in this awareness. It is a month where the heart is naturally soft, the soul is receptive, and Allah's mercy flows abundantly. By consistently practicing mindfulness of Allah, we develop habits that do not vanish when Ramadan ends. We learn to carry the sacred consciousness of this month into every day of our lives. Over time, this practice transforms us. Our hearts grow tender toward acts of goodness. Our minds become disciplined in thought, and our lives begin to radiate sincerity in every interaction. In conclusion, the first step toward building real taqwa is to live with awareness of Allah in everything we do. It is not enough to perform acts of worship. Mechanically, we must immerse ourselves in the recognition that Allah is near, seeing and knowing all. When we embrace this awareness, Ramadan becomes more than a ritual. It becomes a journey of the heart, a pathway to purification, and a source of lasting transformation. This mindfulness will set the stage for the next steps, guiding us toward a life where taqwa is not a temporary feeling, but a permanent state of being. The second powerful step toward building real taqwa in Ramadan is to engage in consistent, sincere worship. Many of us enter Ramadan with a rush of enthusiasm, planning to pray extra, read the Quran, and perform as many good deeds as possible. Yet by the second week, our energy wanes, distractions creep in, and what began as a sincere effort often becomes mechanical. True worship, however, is not about quantity alone. It is about quality, intention, and consistency. Allah does not merely look at how much we do. He looks at the sincerity behind our actions, the devotion with which we perform them, and the constancy with which we uphold them. Consistency in worship is like building a muscle. You cannot lift heavy weights the first day and expect to be strong forever. You begin with small, regular exercises that over time strengthen your body. Similarly, consistent worship strengthens your soul. Performing a few acts of worship with deep sincerity every day is far more beneficial than performing many acts hastily, without presence of heart or awareness of Allah. In Ramadan, this consistency should extend beyond the obligatory prayers. It includes extra prayers, nafil, recitation and reflection on the Quran, dhikr, and acts of kindness. When you commit to daily deliberate worship, your heart begins to recognize the rhythm of devotion, and your soul aligns naturally with the guidance of Allah. Sincerity is the key that unlocks the true power of worship. Worship is not a performance for others. It is a conversation between your heart and your Creator. It is easy to pray while your mind is distracted, to recite the Quran while thinking of worldly matters, or to give charity expecting praise. But Allah is ever aware of what is hidden within your heart. The Prophet taught us that Allah does not look at our appearance or wealth, but at the hearts and intentions behind our actions. In Ramadan, this principle becomes even more critical. The fasting, the long nights of prayer, and the charity given are all magnified in reward, but only when performed with sincerity. When your worship comes from the heart, it transforms your soul, purifies your intentions, and draws you closer to Allah in a way that ritual alone cannot achieve. Consistency and sincerity in worship also help us resist the distractions of daily life. In Ramadan, we are often tempted by laziness, procrastination, or the pull of worldly concerns. Maintaining a structured routine of worship can act as a shield against these distractions. Begin your day with Fajr prayer and Quran recitation. Take short moments during the day for dhikr, and dedicate the evening to reflection, dua, and taraweeh. Each act, small or large, builds a chain of devotion that strengthens your heart and reinforces your awareness of Allah. Over time, this chain becomes unbreakable, anchoring you in taqwa even when the outside world tries to pull you away. Moreover, consistent worship fosters self-discipline and inner peace. When you make worship a regular part of your day, it creates structure, purpose, and calmness in your life. Your heart becomes less restless, your mind less distracted, and your spirit more resilient. This inner discipline also helps in other aspects of Ramadan: resisting anger, controlling speech, and avoiding idle habits. Worship is not limited to prayer or Quran alone. It shapes your entire character. Each act of devotion becomes a reflection of your commitment to Allah, reminding you that Ramadan is not a month of routine. It is a month of transformation. Another essential aspect of sincere worship is reflection on your actions. When you pray, pause to feel the presence of Allah. When you read the Quran, ponder its meanings and how it applies to your life. When you give charity, remember that you are participating in Allah's mercy. Worship that is done mechanically may earn reward, but worship done with consciousness and reflection builds real taqwa. It molds your character, purifies your intentions, and plants seeds of spirituality that continue to grow long after Ramadan ends. Finally, remember that consistent, sincere worship is not about perfection, but persistence. There will be days when you feel weak, tired, or distracted. What matters is not never faltering, but returning to Allah with humility and determination. Every sincere prayer, every moment of reflection, every heartfelt dua counts. These small, consistent acts accumulate and create a powerful transformation of the soul. Ramadan becomes not just a temporary spiritual high, but a launch pad for lifelong devotion and closeness to Allah. In conclusion, the second step in building real taqwa is to establish consistent, sincere worship. Let your prayers, your recitations, and your acts of devotion be regular, intentional, and heartfelt. Avoid rushing through rituals or performing them for show. Instead, embrace every act of worship as an opportunity to connect with your Creator, strengthen your soul, and transform your character. As you maintain this consistency, your heart will grow stronger, your awareness of Allah will deepen, and you will experience a Ramadan that leaves a permanent mark on your life and your spiritual journey. The third powerful step to building real taqwa in Ramadan is learning the control of desires. True taqwa is not just about performing acts of worship, it is about mastering the self, controlling the impulses, temptations, and habits that distance us from Allah. Every human being is born with desires for food, comfort, recognition, and pleasure. These desires are natural and when managed properly can even be beneficial. But when left unchecked, they dominate our lives, weaken our willpower, and obstruct our spiritual growth. Ramadan offers the perfect opportunity to train the soul, sharpen self-discipline, and transform desires into tools for closeness to Allah. Fasting itself is a master class in controlling desires. When we abstain from food and drink, we are not only practicing physical restraint, but also cultivating mental and spiritual discipline. Hunger and thirst become reminders that we are accountable to Allah and that our bodies and souls are not ours to satisfy without mindfulness. Every pang of hunger is an opportunity to strengthen the heart, silence the ego, and redirect energy toward worship and reflection. In this way, fasting is not just an obligation. It is a spiritual training ground for controlling every desire, whether small or great. But controlling desires goes beyond hunger. It includes curbing anger, resisting gossip, avoiding envy, and purifying speech. These are desires of the heart and mind, and they are far more dangerous than physical cravings. In moments of frustration, when anger rises, or when pride tempts us to act unjustly, we are faced with choices that either increase our taqwa or pull us away from it. Controlling these impulses requires awareness, patience, and repeated practice. Ramadan gives us the ideal environment to train in this, as our hearts are naturally softer, our minds more focused, and Allah's mercy is abundant. Practical steps to control desires include replacing harmful habits with beneficial ones. When you feel the urge to complain or speak negatively, turn to dhikr instead. When anger rises, pause and recite a verse from the Quran or make a short dua. When envy creeps in, remind yourself of Allah's wisdom and the blessings in your own life. By redirecting energy away from destructive desires and toward acts that please Allah, you begin to reshape your character. Over time, controlling small desires becomes second nature, and larger challenges that once seemed overwhelming no longer have the same hold over you. Self-discipline in Ramadan also teaches delayed gratification, a critical aspect of taqwa. The world teaches instant satisfaction. Eat when you're hungry, speak when you're upset, indulge when you want. Ramadan teaches the opposite. Wait, reflect, and act with purpose. Delay your impulses, and you train your heart to prioritize Allah's pleasure over immediate worldly satisfaction. This shift is subtle but powerful. It transforms the way you respond to every temptation. strengthens moral integrity, and increases spiritual resilience. Furthermore, controlling desires is not about deprivation or fear. It is about empowerment. When you master your desires, you reclaim control over your life, your choices, and your soul. You no longer act as a slave to fleeting whims, but as a conscious servant of Allah, capable of choosing what is right, beneficial, and pleasing to Him. Every successful act of restraint, every temptation resisted, becomes a building block of taqwa, shaping your identity as someone who prioritizes Allah's guidance above all else. Finally, remember that controlling desires requires patience, persistence, and reliance on Allah. You will falter, and there will be moments when old habits resurface. Do not despair. Each setback is an opportunity to renew your intention. Seek forgiveness and try again. Ramadan is a month of mercy and transformation. Use it to strengthen your willpower, purify your heart, and solidify the foundation of self-control that will continue long after the month ends. In conclusion, the third step toward building real taqwa is mastering your desires. Whether physical, emotional, or mental, every desire you control brings you closer to Allah. Fasting trains your body, reflection guides your mind, and conscious restraint strengthens your heart. By embracing this discipline, you transform Ramadan into more than a ritual of abstinence. It becomes a month of empowerment, spiritual refinement, and preparation for a lifetime of enduring taqwa. The fourth powerful step to building real taqwa in Ramadan is embracing compassion and charity. Taqwa is not only about personal discipline or acts of worship. It is also about how we treat others, how we respond to the needs of those around us, and how our hearts open to mercy and kindness. The Prophet said that one of the hallmarks of true faith is caring for others. In Ramadan, this principle becomes even more significant, as the doors of mercy are wide open and acts of generosity carry multiplied rewards. Compassion is the seed, and charity is the fruit. To develop al-taqwa, our hearts must feel the suffering, the struggles, and the needs of others. True spiritual growth cannot occur in isolation. When we witness someone in hardship, whether it is hunger, poverty, loneliness, or injustice, our natural response should be a heartfelt urge to help. This empathy, when translated into action, purifies the heart, softens the soul, and strengthens our relationship with Allah. Ramadan magnifies this effect, reminding us that feeding the hungry, supporting the weak, and comforting the distressed are not optional. They are integral to building taqwa. Charity in Ramadan takes many forms. Of course, there is financial charity such as giving zakat or sadaqah, but there is also charity of time, effort, and kindness, a smile, a word of encouragement, helping someone with their burden, or even correcting a mistake with gentleness. These are all forms of charity. The Prophet said that even a smile is charity. Each act, no matter how small, can have enormous spiritual impact when done sincerely and with awareness of Allah. Compassion and charity also teach humility. When we help others, we remind ourselves that our blessings are from Allah and that our role in this life is to serve His creation. Humility prevents arrogance and greed, which are enemies of taqwa. When we recognize the needs of others and respond generously, we cultivate gratitude, empathy, and patience. Our hearts expand, and our attachment to worldly desires diminishes. Ramadan is the perfect time to practice this outward expression of inner spirituality, transforming the fast from a personal act of devotion into a communal act of mercy. Charity also strengthens the social bonds. Allah values. In a world often filled with selfishness and competition, acts of generosity create connections, promote justice, and inspire others to do good. The ripple effect of kindness can transform families, communities, and even societies. By engaging in compassionate acts during Ramadan, we are not only building taqwa in our hearts, but also spreading the light of Islam through practical, meaningful action. Moreover, compassionate charity is a test of sincerity and intention. Giving when it is convenient, visible, or praised by others is easy. Giving when it costs us effort, time, or resources, and doing so purely for Allah, is a sign of true devotion. Ramadan teaches us to give selflessly, to prioritize the needs of others, and to seek the pleasure of Allah above all else. Every act of charity becomes a mirror of our inner spiritual state. The more we give with humility and awareness, the closer we come to embodying the true essence of Taqwa. Finally, compassion and charity transform not just the lives of those we help, but our own souls. They remind us of our purpose, elevate our hearts, and prepare us for the eternal life we strive for. In a month when every act is magnified, acts of kindness carry immense spiritual weight. By prioritizing the needs of others, we train ourselves to live with integrity, empathy, and selflessness, qualities at the very core of real taqwa. In conclusion, the fourth step to building real taqwa in Ramadan is to cultivate compassion and charity. Open your heart to the suffering of others, act with generosity in every form, and seek the pleasure of Allah in your giving. When your fast is coupled with kindness, your worship with empathy, and your intentions with selfless action, Ramadan becomes a transformative journey, not just for you, but for everyone whose life you touch. Compassion is the heart of Taqwa, and charity is its outward expression. Together, they create a spiritual legacy that lasts far beyond this blessed month. The fifth powerful step toward building real Taqwa in Ramadan is reflection and self-accountability. True taqwa is not only about outward acts of worship or controlling desires. It is also about looking inward, examining our hearts, and confronting our actions with honesty and humility. Many of us go through Ramadan performing prayers, reading the Quran, and giving charity, yet we may fail to pause and reflect on what these acts are doing to our souls. Without reflection, worship risks becoming routine, and the lessons of Ramadan may fade as soon as the month ends. Reflection begins with asking ourselves the hard questions. Am I truly conscious of Allah in my actions? Are my intentions pure? Have I wronged anyone in thought, word, or deed? These questions are not meant to make us feel guilty, but to awaken awareness. When we honestly evaluate our behavior, our strengths, and our weaknesses, we gain insight into our spiritual state. Ramadan is the ideal time for this self-examination because our hearts are naturally softened and Allah's mercy is abundant. By reflecting regularly, we can identify patterns that keep us distant from Allah and begin to replace them with actions that bring us closer. Self-accountability is reflection in action. It requires discipline and courage. Every night in Ramadan, after prayers, take a few quiet moments to review your day. Did you control our anger when provoked? Did you maintain sincerity in your worship? Did you use your time and energy to benefit yourself and others? This process may be uncomfortable at first, but it is essential for growth. When we hold ourselves accountable, we no longer excuse our shortcomings or blame circumstances. Instead, we recognize that our choices matter and that Allah sees both our efforts and our intentions. Reflection also strengthens humility. When we see our mistakes clearly, we are reminded that we are human, reliant on Allah's guidance and forgiveness. True taqwa is rooted in the awareness of our dependence on Allah and our responsibility to correct our behavior. Self-accountability prevents complacency. It stops us from thinking that performing rituals alone is sufficient and pushes us to continually refine our character, deepen our worship, and purify our intentions. Moreover, reflection allows us to set meaningful spiritual goals. Ramadan is a time of spiritual renewal, and by evaluating our actions, we can identify areas for improvement and plan for sustained growth. Perhaps you need to be more consistent in prayer, more generous with charity, or more patient with others. By taking stock of your actions, you can create a roadmap for spiritual development that lasts beyond Ramadan, turning temporary devotion into lifelong taqwa. Reflection and self-accountability also increase mindfulness in every moment. When we are aware of our actions and their consequences, we begin to notice small opportunities to do good and avoid harm. This heightened awareness transforms mundane tasks into acts of worship. A simple gesture, like helping a neighbor or speaking kindly to someone, becomes intentional, meaningful, and spiritually rewarding. Each reflection strengthens this awareness, creating a ripple effect of goodness in our daily lives. Finally, remember that reflection must always be paired with action. Self-examination without change is incomplete. When you identify a weakness or a mistake, take steps to correct it immediately. Make dua for guidance, seek forgiveness, and implement practical solutions. Ramadan is a month of mercy, and Allah's forgiveness is immense for those who sincerely seek it. By reflecting, holding ourselves accountable, and acting on what we learn, we transform our spiritual potential into real, tangible taqwa. In conclusion, the fifth step to building real taqwa is reflection and self-accountability. Look within, ask the difficult questions, and face your actions honestly. Use Ramadan as a mirror to understand your strengths and weaknesses and take deliberate steps to improve. This practice purifies the heart, strengthens intentions, and ensures that your worship is not hollow but transformative. When self-reflection becomes a habit, taqwa ceases to be a temporary feeling and becomes a permanent guide, shaping your actions, thoughts, and character long after Ramadan ends. The sixth and final powerful step to building real taqwa in Ramadan is persistence beyond Ramadan. While Ramadan is a blessed month of spiritual rejuvenation, reflection, and worship, the true test of taqwa comes when the month ends. Many of us feel a surge of devotion during these 30 days. Our hearts are soft, our routines are disciplined, and our connection with Allah feels strong. But when Eid arrives, and the structure of Ramadan disappears, it is easy to slip back into old habits, lose focus, and let the spiritual gains fade away. Real taqwa is not seasonal. It is a lifelong journey of consistency, resilience, and dedication. Persistence begins with intention. If we commit during Ramadan to acts of worship, self-discipline, and compassion, we must also plan how to continue these habits afterward. It is better to maintain small, sustainable practices consistently than to aim for extreme devotion and risk burnout. A few minutes of sincere prayer, regular Quran recitation, daily dhikr, or consistent acts of kindness every day can produce far greater long-term spiritual benefit than intense but short-lived bursts of worship. True taqwa grows gradually, nurtured by persistent effort rather than sporadic intensity. Persistence also requires self-awareness and self-reflection. After Ramadan, take stock of what you achieved and where you struggled. Which habits strengthened your connection with Allah? Which areas still need improvement? This evaluation allows you to maintain focus, adapt your routines, and avoid losing momentum. Just as a garden requires regular watering and care to flourish, the soul requires consistent nurturing. The seeds of taqwa planted in Ramadan can bear fruit all year, but only if we continue to tend them with intention and effort. Another critical aspect of persistence is resisting the pull of comfort and distraction. Outside Ramadan, life returns to its usual routines and worldly distractions increase. The desire to sleep through prayers, skip dhikr, or ignore opportunities to do good may resurface. True taqwa is the ability to resist these temptations, to prioritize your relationship with Allah even when it requires effort or sacrifice. This does not mean striving for perfection, but consciously choosing devotion over negligence and consistency over convenience. Persistence also involves carrying the lessons of Ramadan into daily life. The discipline you developed in controlling desires, the empathy you cultivated through charity, the mindfulness you achieved through worship, all of these should extend beyond Ramadan. Your behavior, interactions, and decisions should reflect the spiritual growth you achieved. For example, the patience and self-restraint practiced during fasting should continue in challenging situations, and the generosity shown in Ramadan should become a habit rather than a seasonal act. In doing so, your life becomes a reflection of taqwa, inspiring others and benefiting your own soul. Finally, persistence requires reliance on Allah. We cannot maintain taqwa through willpower alone. Dua, seeking guidance and asking for steadfastness are essential. The Prophet taught us to ask Allah for strength, patience, and consistency, recognizing that human effort is limited without divine support. By combining effort with reliance on Allah, we ensure that the spiritual momentum gained during Ramadan does not dissipate but grows stronger over time. In conclusion, the sixth step to building real taqwa is persistence beyond Ramadan. Let the lessons, habits, and spiritual energy of this blessed month extend into every day of your life. Small, consistent acts of devotion, mindfulness, charity, and self-discipline will transform temporary Ramadan worship into permanent spiritual growth. Real taqwa is not measured by 1 month of effort, but by a lifetime of commitment, reflection, and reliance on Allah. When you continue the journey after Ramadan, every day becomes an opportunity to strengthen your soul, refine your character, and draw closer to your Creator.